Now, Maura Gillespie, founder and principal of Blue Stack Strategies, and Christine Quinn, executive committee chair of the New York State Democratic Committee. And I have the law, like right here in my hands. We're talking about Title V, Section 403 of the U.S. Code, federal law. An inspector general may be removed by the president, but if an inspector general is removed from the office or transferred to another position, the president shall communicate in writing the substantive rationale, et cetera, not later than 30 days before the removal or transfer. That's the law.
Pretty black and white.
And Chuck Grassley, the Republican chair there, is saying, you didn't follow the law.
Right. And regardless of whether you think, as was said, these folks were doing a good job or a bad job, the law is the law, and it's prescribed that way because these individuals are supposed to be independent. They're not supposed to be pure political appointees. And, you know, you have to think, if you're not afraid of watchdogs finding something out, if you're not afraid, you wouldn't fire them. You would keep that infrastructure in place so the American people know that there is transparency and people making sure their tax dollars are being spent correctly by all these federal agencies.
Well, the truth is, the law does provide, Maura, for a president to fire inspectors general if he or she follows the law. But what does it tell you that President Trump in general wants this sweeping change to almost all the inspector general?
Right, and I think that's the biggest question here, and with the cause for concern is what is the reasoning, and so hopefully we'll find out what his reasoning was for making that decision. But again, you pointed out he violated the law, and I think with the bigger question that it causes for us all and for Republicans is what is the role of Congress if he's constantly circumventing it. And without Mike Johnson, the Speaker Mike Johnson, stepping up and being more forceful and, positioning himself as the Speaker of the whole House, not just, the Republican Party leader, it's going to be important for members of Congress to do that, and for the Senate to do that, and for Senator, Leader John Thune to do that, because the President Trump is the president. There's a reason for we have a separation of powers, and I worry about what that says if he's continuing to violate the law, but also then tell Congress what they should be doing.
I want to talk about prices, if we can. My wife went out with one of my sons this weekend to a diner for breakfast, and they had an egg surcharge. If you ordered anything with eggs, they actually, like at a diner, which the only thing you can order is eggs, but they put on extra prices there. This is what Vice President Vance said yesterday when he was asked about what the administration is doing so far to address inflation, which was really the primary focus of their campaign.
We have done a lot, and there have been a number of executive orders that have caused already jobs to start coming back into our country, which is a core part of lowering prices. Prices are going to come down, but it's going to take a little bit of time.
The point Margaret was asking was a lot of the executive orders had been about immigration or DEI or other things, not directly focused on prices. My question, Christine, is as things move forward, and presidents have some impact on prices and sometimes they don't, but how much will this hang over the administration? When will this start to be a factor for them?
I think if they say things like, we've already done a lot to bring jobs in, which couldn't have happened in 1 week, right, regardless of who the president was. If they keep making statements like that, they're going to have it hang over their head more closely, more quickly. Now, look, this was, to their credit, the economy, the price of eggs, the defining issue, and they defined it well, and we Democrats didn't respond well. You get held to what you said. They made promises, and if they see President Trump spending all of his time on issues that aren't pocketbook issues, the public is going to get angry, and I think get angry quickly because people are going to the supermarket. There's no eggs. The ones there are incredibly expensive, and they said they could control it.
And one of the risks of promoting an all-powerful presidency, Maura, is if things don't go well, you really have no one else to blame.
In theory, yes, but as we have learned, Donald Trump tends to evade any sticking criticism. I mean, from the people who support him, the far-right MAGA supporters, none of it matters to them as far as the obvious that if you're being a rational person and you're looking at this and thinking, right, there's no way they could have done something in a week. So to say that they increased jobs and that they've already lowered prices, that's a talking point that isn't based in any truth. And so I think then MAGA supporters hear that and they're not complaining about the grocery prices. You were hearing about it all through the election cycle, they're not complaining about it because they got what they wanted. They got Trump back in the White House. So everything else in their minds will shake out. But I think, again, as a rational human being, as somebody here who is looking at it from both sides, you're using talking points that the Democrats were using largely during the campaign, trying to tell us that everything was fine and that things were going better than they were. And so I think that for voters, we need to take a step back and actually look at the facts here of what's happening, not just what's being spoken to us by Vice President Vance or Donald Trump, or whether it was the Democrats and Kamala Harris and Joe Biden.
All right, Maura Gillespie, Christine Quinn, great to see both of you. Thanks very much. Kate?